Hello everyone, welcome to the Mental Health Takeaways podcast. This is the male mental health podcast that's trying to engage more men in mental health conversations by making the conversations just that little bit more engaging, like the way men actually talk to each other when we're together, but making mental health a subject of those conversations. In today's episode we have Arron. He is a fascinating guy. He's the founder of an organisation called Icebreakers to do with male cold water swimming practices in Bath, Bristol, Brighton and London. He is a founder of Tonic Life Gym, which is based in Bath and specialises in group exercise classes because there are mental health benefits to exercising in groups. And he's also a Qigong instructor. Brad, what have we got coming up in the episode?
So, in this week's episode, because Arron has this big repertoire of skills and interests, we talk about all sorts of really fascinating things. And we're going to kick off talking about cold water swimming with this.
That really opens up conversation because you're less in your head, you're less thinking about everything else. No one's got their phones on, they're just talking, they're just connecting and communicating, and it's stripped everything back. And, everyone's the same when you jump into cold water. We're all there in our shorts, freezing our tits off, and it's like that's it. It's a level playing field here. There's no egos, nothing else but good conversation and good people.
And following on from that conversation, we get into some of the cultural differences between Eastern and Western cultures with regards to our health and our approach to health. And that's where we're going to come on to the approach of Qigong.
So it's from Chinese medicine, and it is there to be preventative, the same as all Chinese medicine is, like herbs, acupuncture, massage, Qigong, lifestyle interventions. They're all about keeping you healthy rather than waiting till you get sick and then trying to heal you. And actually back in, let's go back probably 1,000 odd years or something, but this is like back when you had a shaman in your village in China, you would effectively be paying the shaman or your doctor to keep you well. And if you got sick, you'd stop paying because they failed in their job.
And Arron goes on to talk to us about how Qigong works. And it's hard to say, isn't it? You struggled a multitude of times in the episode, and I've struggled quite a lot just in this little bit. But
you struggled saying multiple then.
I did. We both struggled with how we say Qigong, but fortunately we've got Arron on the show, and he is going to take us through some more information about it and really taking us through how it deals with stagnation, both in the mind and the body. And here's what he's got to say about that.
The idea in Chinese medicine is that the root cause of all illness is stagnation. And so that is a stagnation of blood, a stagnation of toxicity, so your lymphatic system or any fluid in your body. But then that also comes into fact, if you as a person stagnate, that also talks more to mental illness, right? So, if you're trapped in your mind, if you're stuck in this pattern of overthinking or whatever, if you're stagnating, you're stuck in your thoughts.
Brad, it sounds like a really interesting episode. Actually, I know it's a really interesting episode. I was there when we recorded it. But having heard all this stuff already, I think it's lots of really valuable lessons in the stuff that Arron talks about. I can't wait for people to hear it. But what I want people to do is to share it around as well, because I think there are other people out there that will need to hear this.
Arron, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on. I'm going to kick off with a gripe, actually. I was going to say it's nothing to do with you, Arron, but it is. It's entirely to do with you, but it's Nibbo's fault. Because we recorded an episode not very long ago where Nibbo specifically said to me, right, Brad, we need to not have any young, handsome, athletic men on because it makes us look awful. And look at this. What is this, Nibbo?
Soz.
Making me blush already. You just started.
So, Arron, look, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on. We are going to have a lovely informal chat where both myself, Nibbo, and importantly, our listeners get to know more about you. And as the episode unfolds, people are going to find out more and more about you and some of the things you do, and hopefully some bits around how you manage your mental health and other things associated with that. But we always kick off the show starting to get to know one another, talking about takeaways. So my first question for you is just to ask, on a takeaway night, whatever night of the week that might be for you, what is your go-to takeaway? Who's involved? Talk to us about your takeaway choice.
It's actually something I don't do a huge amount of, but if I do, it's generally a curry, we do like a takeaway curry, and that is normally with my new wife, Antonia. We got married a few weeks ago.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. So no, we normally have a curry. I think that tends to be the go-to. I think it's because I like all the extra bits. I want the naan, I want the poppadoms. I want everything. It's such a large meal if I'm doing that. Whereas otherwise, the thing is, she's such a good cook that she loves cooking that we don't need to get takeaways very often. She really looks after me.
Oh, you're a lucky man, Arron.
Cool.
Brad, I'm interrupting already. I'm jumping in.
How long? We're like 2 minutes in.
2 minutes in. It's just a small point of trivia. I heard recently, and you did it dead right, Arron, that I've been saying naan bread all my life, which is nonsense because apparently naan means bread. So when you just said naan, by the way, which is apparently the right way to do it, rather than a naan bread. There's no such thing. So there you go, a little bit of trivia, Brad. Sorry, you carry back on.
Brilliant. So you interrupted, and I'm just going to edit that out anyway, Nibbo. So
it was news to me.
The thing that struck me is the new wife, and all the bits in there about actually she's a great cook. She really looks after me. It's brilliant, isn't it? Cool. So going back to your takeaway, you mentioned about really liking the extras, and you want to chuck the naan in there, poppadoms, all the other bits that go along with it. Is that because it's a rarity? So is it like an all-out event if you get a curry and you just want to get it all? Or
mostly because I'm just really greedy. Just greedy, yeah. I just love food, and I'm a bit of an overeater, so I'll just order everything possible on the menu. If I'm going for dinner that's quite regular, I'll order an extra dish for the table, which is really just for me as well. So, and then I'll clear up everyone else's leftovers.
Cool, nice. And what sort of curry would you go for?
I quite like a sag or a boona. I don't know. They feel quite like you got the sag with like plenty of spinach now. I like a lot of vegetables in everything I'm having. So spinach and greens and things like that is always a good go-to for me.
And is that a conscious choice, Arron? Are you consciously seeking out vegetables, or is it you genuinely enjoy vegetables, and that's because a lot of people that would maybe go a curry are kind of thinking more about whether they're going chicken or beef, but you're targeting the veg. Yeah,
I love meat, but I just love vegetables. Someone last year for Christmas brought me a broccoli, wrapped it up, put it as a Secret Santa gift. I know how much I love broccoli. I mean, it's something I struggle without. Like vegetables are not my staple. So every time I go out for dinner, I'm always ordering a side of the greens. That's just, it has to be there, or it's not a complete meal for me. So
I'm wondering what type of cuisine does the best veg? If you like, not that we want to leave takeaways entirely, but if you were going out for dinner, because some places I find like sometimes French cooking does veg really well.
Yeah, because it tastes delicious just because it's covered in butter and sugar normally. But
I mean, there is that.
That's the French cuisine. No, I think like if you're going to go for vegetables, like you can go Asian because they often have like a wok set of vegetables, something lightly stir fried. There's always a good mixture there. You get good veg.
Oh, my Monday night meals always pale by comparison of the stuff we talk about on these episodes. But sorry, that is what it is. Brad, any more questions on the takeaway?
I'm just going to put it out there. Nibbo, don't get me a broccoli for Christmas. That won't impress me.
That's one ruined. Sprouts.
What about I'm a fitness guy? I'm into like broccoli and vegetables. I was like, the fitness guy must eat it, but it's not because it's like just my job. It's I actually really love it.
Yeah.
You know what? That is a key thing. We spoke to a fitness instructor not long ago, and actually a load of his stuff was like, no, I just enjoy it. And it felt very authentic coming from him, and it feels very authentic coming from you that actually, no, this isn't a discipline thing of I must eat this to do this. It's just, no, actually really just like it. So it's just the way he was, and sounds very much as if it's just the way you are.
Yeah, I mean, like if I'm drinking and the next day after like drinking alcohol, some of my friends might go have a McDonald's or some of them have a Domino's. And I can't even think about doing that. Not because I don't like it, but it's just that all I want is something green. So and I'll make sure if I'm going out drinking, out with the rugby guys that I've got at home, some eggs, some spinach, some whatever, like the healthy stuff, because that makes me excited for breakfast, not Domino's pizza.
Yeah, gosh.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Get straight back on it. Cleanse the system after the night out.
Exactly.
Yeah, perfect.
Brad, let's not bring up your fried egg on peanut butter on toast that we discussed.
It's great.
Once before.
Honestly, people are missing out if they're not having that. I just need to come up with a posher name like I don't know, satay eggs on toast, and then everyone would be like, "Oh,
no, that sounds good.
That sounds interesting."
I'm in.
Yeah. I get a lot of grief from it from pretty much everybody I know. But if I get home and I haven't got long, peanut butter on toast with a couple of eggs, honestly, great.
High in protein.
Cool.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's it. That's why,
Aaron, you've got to taste it. It's weird.
Aaron, that is why me and you look like we do, and that's why Nibbo looks like he does.
All you need now is to put a bit of broccoli on the side, and I'm sold.
There, all right. I'll add that in. That'll be my new addition.
Over.
That could be for Christmas dinner if it's got broccoli on the side.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, Nibbo, you can buy me broccoli for Christmas now. Cool. And can I just ask, I'm just curious, what would be a drink of choice to go with your curry?
Curry's a beer normally, yeah. A nice. Yeah. If I'm in the restaurant, I'm going to go for a tiger beer. But at home, just any lager I've got, a nice cold lager would do the job to wash that down.
Yeah, cool. Sounds good. Sounds good. I think I'm ready to dial that in, Nibbo, and hand over to you.
Good job. Amazing that you've just mentioned cold there. How fortuitous that it should lead us directly into the next question. So you've got a round of would you rather questions, because we feel like these are the sort of the silly questions that men ask each other, but actually we can bring it round to mental health at the same time. So, Arron, I'm looking forward to your answer to this one. Would you rather never have another hot shower or never have another cold swim? So I've deliberately plumped for shower, not bath, because I think a shower is a bit more luxurious than a bath. And I've deliberately plumped for a swim rather than a shower, because obviously you can only cold swim in nature, really. Mm-hmm. So what would you go for? Never another hot shower or never another cold swim?
I think if I can still have a hot bath, I'm going to go never not have the cold swim.
He's found a loophole, Nibbo. He's found a loophole in the question.
Have a hot bath. There we go. I can still bathe in some heat. I love swimming in the cold water. And even yesterday morning, I was in the river with the guys, and it was just so nice to be out there. I forget,
tell me about that. Yesterday morning,
so every Sunday morning, 8 a.m. is the icebreakers. We meet up and we do our cold water swimming. So yesterday we had about 15 guys down at Whalley Weir, just outside Bath, which was great. And actually we've got guys in groups all over. So we've got Bath, Bristol, Brighton and London currently. And the goal is at 8 a.m. each chapter. So each group starts their breathing and their gathering circle. So it's kind of this nice connection between Bath, Bristol, Brighton and London all at the same time. So we have a breath and then we do some Qigong, some breath work, and then we jump in the river. And so for me, it's more than just a swim. It's everything else that comes with it that makes up that reason I mentioned.
Well, no wonder you chose to ditch the hot showers. Let's just dive into the name, icebreakers. Have you ever actually had to break some ice to get? Because I've heard Whalley Weir has had ice in it in the past, not like entirely frozen over that you could ice skate on, but I've heard that it has iced up in the past. Have you ever had to be in there with actual ice?
Not in the water with actual ice. It was ice on the side, frosty morning, snow on the ground. We've had that a few times. The coldest thing we had was 3 degrees in the water, but -4 out. That was quite a spicy one. But actually there's a lake that we have access to, which we sometimes go to. And we had to break the ice going into there. That was quite exciting. Apart from it had, in some parts, it was a very thin layer of ice. And where I was breaking it was literally just cutting me open because it was so sharp. So I came out and I had cuts all over my legs. Made it a bit more adventurous.
And presumably, you're in those groups. So you talked about the Qigong and the breath work and the being in the cold water. Obviously, this is a mental health podcast. Do you or do the guys that are there find that cold water has that effect or an effect on their mental health as well?
Yeah, I'd say the majority of the guys are down there for that in particular. There'll be a number of guys who came for a social. There'll be others who came for it because of physical conditions, pain in the body, maybe some arthritis, maybe swollen joints or something. But everyone has found a kind of mental benefit from being down there. And the cold water, we know, a lot of science is behind that now, but it's the combination for us. It's like the nature exposure, the community, the breathing, the movement, the cold water. It's all of those things combined that gives you, that amazing benefit, and which is why our icebreakers in particular has become so popular. It's more than just jumping in the cold water, because for some people you could do that at home in a tub on your balcony. For some people, I've got friends who do that, and it's just not the same unless you're around people and you're in that nature. It's not the same practice at all.
It's almost surprising, isn't it, now? And it's not really, or it doesn't feel far on from when cold water swimming was first kind of introduced to the masses. I know it's been around as a practice in its own right for a long time, but it's only been fairly recently that it's really become very popular. And it's almost surprising that it wasn't always thought of as being obviously really beneficial. When you say it like that, in a group, so it's like a communal experience, in nature, in that cold water. I do a tiny bit of cold water swimming, and what I find that I really enjoy about it is that whole process of, I find my mind cannot be anywhere else when I'm doing it, because it's such a consuming physical sensation. I can't be thinking about work. I can't be thinking about bills. I can't be thinking about, will my car get through the MOT? Like, none of that can be here. And actually, so I find it a really efficient way of it's a break from that. You literally get to stop thinking about all that stuff and just focus in on what you're actually really doing at the same time. Brad, do you do a bit of cold water swimming?
Yeah, I went in on the weekend, actually. Obviously, I'm fortunate, based in Cornwall and living close to the sea. It's relatively easy. And it's the temperature's just sort of starting to dip a little bit. It was the first time, and I hadn't been for a while, actually. But I specifically wanted to go because I've had a little spell of not getting in the gym, and I haven't been on my bike, and I haven't had a surf and that sort of thing. And it was like, I need to do something, but I haven't got loads of time. And I went in, and it was the first time that it's caught my breath in a little while. It's not such a big deal this time of year. I think sometimes the summer can be worse when the air temperature is really warm, and then you get in the sea and it feels really cold. Whereas now the air temperature and the sea are fairly level. So it's not a big deal going in. But as I sort of dived in a very athletic Baywatch type way, I did come up and I was like, and I needed that first big breath just to regulate. But that's kind of what you're talking about, isn't it, Nibbo? That actually the focus of your mind then becomes about your breathing and the sensation in your body. And I love the burning feeling afterwards when you get into the winter. Just that, I don't know, and that surge of endorphins that it's just really positive. But I can totally see what you're saying, Arron, about that community you've built around that, because I think that just adds a whole other element. I mean, I did it on my own at the weekend, and it felt great, don't get me wrong, but I imagine that routine of kind of same group of guys meeting 8 a.m. every Sunday, I like that. I think that sounds really cool.
Yeah, I think you both hit the nail on the head really about clearing the mind. And if you think about once your mind is a bit clearer and there's less distracting it, when we're all stood around at the end having a cup of tea, having a coffee or whatever we brought down with us to the river, that really opens up conversation, because you're less in your head, you're less thinking about everything else. No one's got their phones on, they're just talking, they're just connecting and communicating, and it's stripped everything back. And, everyone's the same when you jump into cold water. We're all there in our shorts, freezing our tits off. And, it's like, that's it. It's a level playing field here. There's no egos, nothing else but good conversation and good people. And yeah, we find it's extremely beneficial for the groups of people that we've had coming down. And, we get amazing kind of success stories from individuals all the time about how much it's transformed their health, transformed their life. So yeah, it's been extremely powerful for us.
I'll tell you what that's just reminded me of, Arron, and I hadn't planned to ask you a question around this, but I went with a group of friends recently to Keeper's Pond in the Brecon Beacons. And it's a wonderful place, different to Whalley Weir in that it's a very sort of silty, muddy surface underneath. But one of my mates, and these are my oldest friends, and I bitch about them quite a lot on here, but one of them asked me, what did I like about cold water? I was the only one out of us that does cold water stuff on any sort of regular basis. And he asked me what was it that I liked about it. And what it was that I liked about it is that there is no bravado. You can't be like, oh, I'm fine, this is fine. You can't bullshit anyone when you're in that freezing cold water.
Yeah.
I'm freezing, you're freezing, we're all fucking freezing in here. And that whole, that air of bravado sort of washes away. And I think maybe as a group of men that know each other really well, we grew up together, we still have some of that bravado there, that we like to try to be in the pecking order, one above the other, and the sort of the gentle piss taking is actually a little bit of who can get one over on the others. But what I love about cold water swimming is there is no bravado. There is no like, I'm fine with this. You're not fine. The whole point of it is that you're uncomfortable, and then you learn to deal with that discomfort. Yeah. And it was really nice to hear you say that the group of guys that you go with, once they've cleared their mind of that, those conversations are starting from like a fresh slate, really.
Yeah, and it allows the conversation to really open up, because I think everyone's so distracted all the time. There's so much there, and even when you're, if you've been really, really stressed and really busy, you're a bit anxious. You can't really have a good conversation where you're all focusing on what's being said and listening, because you're thinking, oh, is my phone still going off? Is there, everyone's, when they first come down to it, often very, very agitated still. They're kind of still a bit hyped up. And so by taking our time, by doing all the breathing, we do some Qigong movements to shake out and release the stress from the body as well. And then we do our cold water immersion. And then we come out, we do some more movement practice to warm us up. There's this physical side to it. You're breathing, which is getting into your nervous system. You're connecting, you're out in nature. You're grounding your feet into the grass, into the mud. You've got all these aspects of nature going on around you. And again, so it's not just the cold water. It's all those bits that contribute to the end feeling of like guys feeling really alive and energized, really connected to nature, to themselves and to others. And, we know that like loneliness is a massive issue in everyone, but in men in particular as well, like this feeling of being alone and not connected to anyone or anything, and not maybe have found a group that isn't going to the pub and drinking or taking the piss out of each other, like blokes do, but it can become a bit much. Whereas we still have a bit of a joke. That's one of our things, you still have to take the piss a little bit, but it's in a healthy way, in a healthy environment. And in fact, one of our retreats, we'd had quite a really deep conversation, and it had gone quite heavy for a lot of people. So after we'd had a half an hour break, when we came back to the circle, one of the guys facilitated said, right, let's just shout out like a rude or stupid word for about 30 seconds, just call someone across from you like a dick or something. Let's go for it. And so everyone just shouted, yeah, dickhead, and just started going. And everyone was just laughing because it was the most joyous, like fun thing. And it just completely cleared the energy of like everyone sat there crying beforehand, So it's important that we can still laugh about it and have a joke and say stupid things to each other, because that's what we want in a conversation. It doesn't always have to be heavy.
And that's exactly where this podcast is coming from, that we think so many conversations around male mental health are so serious, but also mental health is a really tricky subject with lots of rules around it. If you can say this, but you can't say that, but you must encourage this, but you mustn't do that. I don't think men gravitate towards that. But men do gravitate towards being able to call each other a dick and being able to acknowledge how everyone's feeling and being able to, what was it you said, like sort of clear that energy by having a bit of a laugh when it's time for that. So no wonder that people are finding it effective. I can totally see all the ingredients for good mental health right there. One more thing that I'll just mention to our listeners, I don't know if there'll be space to link it in. There's a book called Lost Connections. I don't know if you've heard of it, by a guy called Johan Hari. And he talks about how we can positively manage our mental health through specific connections. And you mentioned at least two of them: connection to nature, connection to other people. And it's just no surprise, is it, that the work you're doing has really beneficial effects on people's mental health. I can totally see that.
Yeah, I've got to say, listening to it, I think it sounds awesome. I think it sounds amazing. Like we talked about, I enjoy cold water swimming already, but having all of those other elements that you're pulling together, I think sounds great. If that was happening in Cornwall on a Sunday morning, I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to get up and go and do that. For all of the reasons that you've just talked about, the connection with others, the breath work, the laughs, the kind of, all of it. Just, it sounds great, really great.
We're always looking for people to set up groups.
I can see a sort of cold water podcast coming up where we've all got to be sat in cold water, or certainly if not, then the next time I come up that way, I think me and Nibbo are going to have to come along and join in.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but you've already poo-pooed it, Brad. When you said that it's no big deal going at this time of year, like people at work are saying to me, "Oh, did you get in the water in November?" I was like, "Yeah, I did." Now I know it's not much colder in November, but they don't know that. They think I'm a hero for getting in the water.
Yesterday morning we hit 8.2 degrees in the river, so it's getting colder. The sea's probably a bit warmer still, right?
Yeah, there's such a difference. One of the things that has become part and parcel of I do a lot of mountain biking with some mates down here, but it's now become the way that we finish a ride. We typically ride where there are rivers, and so now whenever we finish a ride, it's like, right, gear off, like everything. So hopefully there's not too many dog walkers around, and we literally, it's just become a joke that is like, right, finish riding, yeah, naked swim. Yeah, naked swim. And we go and we jump in a river. But, oh, my God, the river is so much colder than the sea. So, yeah, I can imagine that it's getting chilly in those rivers up where you are.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I need to confess here that I don't know if you've seen them actually, Arron, that there's a sauna company that's set up down at Whalley Weir, or they're like a travelling sauna company. And there's somebody who was a former acquaintance from a dating app who... I'm not seeing anymore. I don't know her particularly well, but I know she likes a cold water swim. So we went out to Farley Hungerford back in the summer, literally just for a swim, no funny business. And then I saw this sauna company was setting up down at Whalley Weir, and I said to her, like, did she want to come down for a sauna and a swim with that whole like sauna swim process? She said, yeah, great. We booked for 5:30, so now in November it's dark at 5:30. So. And she didn't know the area. You have to cross a train line to get there and go through a field. Get there and you can see the sauna with the fairy lights, and then the door opens. First two people out are butt naked. And she's like, what the fuck have you brought me to? And then two more naked guys come around the corner. Two naked girls come around the other. Why the fuck what is going on here? And it turned out that you're allowed to use that sauna in any state of dress you want once it's dark. But thankfully for our session, there's just one guy. But yeah, that was a bit of I had some explaining to do, put it that way. It wasn't even a date. That's the thing. It wasn't even meant to be like, I'm going to try to woo you. It's just like, I want to go to this sauna. I've got a friend that I often go swimming with, and she was not available. So I was like, well, do you want to come instead? And she came along. But yeah, she ended up looking at me like, what have we come to? What, is this some sort of weird nudist party? Or Brad's mountain biking naked swim?
That's it. I don't think I want to go with any, even on a date down to something like that and do naked, because after I've been in that cold water, there's not much to show off anymore.
No, it's not.
Yeah, like the less said about that, the better, really. Arron, we'll move on to your second. What a good time to move on to your second. Would you rather? And I'm interested to know what you'll say about this one as well. Would you rather already be a Qigong master, or would you rather be on the path to becoming a Qigong master? So what I'm really asking is it something that you can actually ever achieve mastery of, or is the joy in it the learning and the improving?
I think for me, it's the learning, the improving part. You can become a Qigong master, but becoming a Qigong master is a life's work kind of thing. For me, it's something I love to do, and it's another string to my bow, and I really enjoy the journey and where it's taking me. But to become a master, I would feel embarrassed to call myself that at any point, because I've not dedicated my life to that work. And I think sometimes I get a bit annoyed at people in our Western world because they call themselves masters very quickly. Master class with me. I'm a master of this. I'm a master of that. When I first qualified as a personal trainer almost 20 years ago, we had the option, as soon as I finished my course, to do a level 4 master trainer course. And I hadn't even seen a client yet. I hadn't done anything practical with my qualification. Like, how could they give me a sign to say I was a master? You can have all the knowledge in the world as well, but if you can't teach people, if you can't translate it to people in the right way, you can't be a master. So I'm on the journey, I'm on the path, and I'd love to maybe one day get to a point where I felt more like a master. But I think that would be doing a disservice to all the incredible people and proper masters out there who've actually put their life's work into it.
That's a really respectful answer, isn't it?
Mm.
When did you start the journey with Qigong?
I've been doing Qigong for about 12 years. So I first found it, a good client of mine was a Chinese doctor, and she got me addicted to Chinese medicine because it just made so much sense. I love the fact that you could heal yourself naturally, and that there was an answer through movement or through breath or through acupuncture or through lifestyle changes to fix pretty much every problem you can find. And it was a complementary medicine, so it did still respect the Western medicine and the power of surgery and things like that, but it didn't really respect so much in terms of medications and things like that. And it just really resonated with me. So I was studying a Chinese acupressure course called 2-in-R. So it's a massage technique where you massage the acupuncture points rather than needling them. And this little Chinese guy on the course was like teaching us some Qigong movements to help keep our energy strong when we're healing sick people. And at this point, I was like 26, 27 years old. I thought I knew everything about fitness and about like exercise movements. And he taught me 5 or 6 moves, and I was like, I couldn't believe how great I felt and what they did to my body so easily and so quickly. So that kind of led me down the path of exploring Qigong, and I decided to move away from like the hands-on massage stuff and the Chinese doctor kind of stuff. And I moved down the route of Qigong, which, because it's moving meditations, it's movement practice. In my eyes, I was continuing the journey of what I was already doing as a personal trainer, which was trying to heal people through movement, just on a much deeper level and a much more kind of physical and emotional level as well. So yeah, that's kind of my journey into Qigong, and I've been 12 years in, and I've been mixing it with my personal training practices ever since. And yeah, it's been something that I now focus more time on than my personal training, actually.
I wonder if people find it like a slightly an easier introduction to the idea of meditation, because I think a number of people, we hear frequently that meditation is good for mental health, but I think a lot of people think of meditation as being sitting quietly and doing nothing and saying nothing. I think people think it's hard to know, are you doing it right? Are you doing it wrong? What are you actually doing? Whereas I think if you, as you say, if you combine it with movement, you can look at the movements and start to realize that you're doing those right. And would you say it's the case that through those movements it becomes meditative? Or am I seeing stuff that isn't there?
No, you're completely on the right path. Qigong is a moving meditation practice. So it's breathing coordinated with movement. So there's this, first of all, there's like the gentle movement with breath. So you're trying to move with the flow and release tension for the body, which becomes quite meditative in itself. And then it's the focus on the breath and getting the movement right, which starts to distract the mind. And then as you know more about it, you're actually at the same time trying to subtly massage organs or trying to move energy or chi around your body. So there's a lot to distract the mind on more of an internal basis, like what's happening in your body rather than what's going on out there. So it really draws you inwards. You know, meditation classically is like a single focus, so focusing on one thing and not being distracted. But we all know that's really, really difficult. But that single focus could still be you. It can still be your body, your breath, your movement, right? That's a one being, and it keeps the mind quite a lot calmer and quieter. And I actually taught a Qigong class yesterday morning, and a lady at the very end of it came up to me and said, God, that was so good. I really struggled to meditate, but I found myself finding a meditative flow then for the first time ever. And it was exactly that, exactly as you said.
Yeah, I find it fascinating. I did a small amount of research for this podcast, and I heard it said that Qigong was more of but part of its roots were in a preventative approach as well, that it wasn't necessarily about because from what I understand, its roots are in Chinese medicine or Chinese philosophy, and that actually that Chinese philosophy, whereas in Western healthcare model is actually more of a unhealthcare model, like a sickness care model. You get sick, then you go and see someone to remedy that sickness. Whereas the Chinese approach that Qigong was derived from was about being well and staying well initially, rather than just remedying you when you're unwell. Is that along the right lines?
Yeah, completely. Yeah. So it's from Chinese medicine, and it is there to be preventative, the same as all Chinese medicine is, like herbs, acupuncture, massage, Qigong, lifestyle interventions. They're all about keeping you healthy rather than waiting till you get sick and then trying to heal you. And actually back in This goes back probably 1,000 odd years or something, but this is like back when you had a shaman in your village in China, you would effectively be paying the shaman or your doctor to keep you well. And if you got sick, you'd stop paying because they failed in their job. That's a really interesting way to look at it. Like, but you couldn't do that over here now. You couldn't introduce that because people would just get sick, so they didn't have to pay. This is an interesting world that we're living in. But it's it's
that's fascinating, isn't it?
So yeah, it's a holistic practice. It's all about keeping you well. And so the idea in Chinese medicine is that the root cause of all illness is stagnation. And so that is a stagnation of blood, a stagnation of toxicity, so your lymphatic system or any fluid in your body. But then that also comes into fact, if you as a person stagnate, that also talks more to mental illness, right? So, if you're trapped in your mind, if you're stuck in this pattern of overthinking or whatever, if you're stagnating, you're stuck in your thoughts. So with Qigong, your goal is to move your blood, to move your lymphatic system, to move your energy, and to move your body, which allows you to clear your mind and move out the thoughts. And then the deeper level of that is, again, in Chinese medicine, we believe that your organs hold your emotions. So your emotions are in your body, and you hold them through postures or tensions in your tissues and your organs. So the movements and the breath and everything helps to release that, and it moves. It puts the energy, the emotion in motion to allow it to flow rather than be stuck. Because an emotion is energy in motion, and it should be in motion, not just sat there.
I could listen to this for the next 2.5 hours straight, I reckon. This is... it's really fascinating.
It's fascinating, and I always find it interesting where Western philosophy and Eastern philosophy kind of meet each other and how they conflict with each other. But like I said, that could be another 2.5 hours of explanation there.
So
I think, Brad, do you have anything to say on that? Sorry, Arron, go on.
Yeah, it's just going to seem like one thing. It says, people always go to me, your emotions aren't in your body, it's in your head, and we decipher things. And maybe your mind reads these emotions in the body and it brings it back to a memory, which is where it comes from. But we hold our emotions in postures in our body. So, for example, like a sinking in around the abdomen is like a feeling of being nervous or worried, right? We hold these kind of postures of pulling inwards. And the emotion of worry is an emotion which we most connect to your stomach and spleen in Chinese medicine. So you may say things all your life like, I was sick with worry. So you feel it there. You feel it in those organs. Even when you've got nerves, you might say, I've got butterflies in my stomach. We've connected it all our lives. But when you think about it, it's hard to relate back to because we're not always aware of how our body actually feels in those moments. So for us, if we've got those emotions of worry and anxiety, there's a certain amount of things that we might be able to do with our stomach and with our spleen organs and the tissues around them to stop ourselves going into that pattern of emotion as our default, to let that release from the body a little bit and then help the organ bits function as well.
And do you think that we are close to adopting that mindset as a broader society, like we're starting to do with cold water swimming, like we're starting to appreciate that this can have really obvious benefits to our mental health? Do you think we're getting close to appreciating that actually there are numerous other ways to address our health? Or do you think we're going to stay in that mindset of the Western healthcare model is, if you feel poorly, you have a paracetamol, and that's all we do about it? Do you think we're getting closer to it?
I think we're going through a bit of an awakening, and it's starting to be a big shift. Social media has a big part to play in that. These things are accessible, and if you're looking in the right places, it's fed to you. You see these people feeding movements to you, cold water, shaking out their bodies. Like it's a great way to get it out there to the masses. And I think in Qigong in particular, like yoga's been around for years and it's been really, really popular.
Yeah.
And Qigong's catching up with it. And Qigong's, people would call it Chinese yoga. It's a very similar kind of practice. And it is catching up, and that's because of social media. It's allowed it to rocket. So, throughout lockdown, when all my gyms were closed, I went to teaching Qigong online, and I had a phenomenal business for all of lockdown where I had thousands of people training with me doing Qigong classes online. And it allowed it to open up to the world. And through that, I ended up teaching a load of like yoga teachers and Pilates instructors and other people. And they've all gone on to study with my master. So he's had like, not just through me, but through some other people as well. But they've had and probably another 20 to 30 instructors that I know go through my master's program since COVID off the back of learning it at that time. So it's starting to snowball pretty quickly. And, so that's just Qigong as one practice. And if that's coming along where people are looking for more alternatives, they're looking at acupuncture to heal them. They're looking for breathwork techniques because they understand more about that as well. So, and if you're into that world, then you start to look at different types of medicine and how you can heal yourself naturally and not eat so many, damaging foods potentially to your gut health and things like that. There's a lot of knowledge out there. It's like too much knowledge sometimes in the wrong areas. There's not enough people telling you the right things, I don't think. But that's with everything in life, isn't there?
I mean, just speaking from the mental health first aider perspective, one of the things that we preach on the course is that there are resources available to you, and it almost always starts with a visit to the GP and then a referral to specialist services from there. But at the same time, alongside that, there are things that you can access instantly to start helping yourself. And obviously somebody could access your services. We'll just say to the listeners that all the links to get in touch with you via your various business interests will be in the show note on the podcast page for this episode. But that if somebody lots of people tend to be on waiting lists to address their mental health, but there is stuff that people can do in the meantime that isn't waiting for an appointment with a specialist, but actually they can use those things like Qigong, like cold water swimming, to help benefit their mental health whilst they're waiting for something else to come along and help them. Brad, did you have anything else to say about that?
Yeah, I did. I was just about to raise my hand very politely, but you read my mind. I wrote a couple of things down in all of that because I think there was loads of really important bits. But I'm definitely drawn to the idea of the growth in lifestyle change. I think more people are waking up to that. It took me straight back. I don't know if you've seen that image that's probably done the rounds on social media, where it's like there's a queue of people in the line for like wanting change, and then there's nobody in the queue for lifestyle change. And I think that's something that probably is people are coming round to. I think they're starting to recognise now that there are lots and lots of other avenues and ways we can achieve certain things. So, it's great to hear about those. What you said about holding stress in your organs and stuff, I really got that. And yeah, definitely with the stomach thing, it took me back to, I was talking to Nibbo about this the other day. I'm currently doing a course, a trauma-informed and mental health practitioner course. And I had to do an exercise the other day where a lot of the work that I do as a hypnotherapist is about getting people into the left prefrontal cortex. It's a really positive part of our brain, and it's where we make good decisions. And we usually try and move people from the right side to the left side. But actually, the exercise we did was about being in the right side, because the right side is more associated with our gut feelings and our instincts and where our emotion is held. And I had to do an activity and it really took me aback because I felt so emotional in terms of what I had to do. And it just came out of nowhere on me, to the point where, I was describing a set of circumstances and an experience, and I found it almost quite hard to articulate to the other people what I'd done in the exercise because there was so much raw emotion, and it was really odd to explain. But that evening, and even more so the next day, even though my situation hadn't changed, it hadn't got any worse or it hadn't got any better, I felt so different. And the only way that I could describe it to people was just I felt lighter. And it was like, wow, and I kind of, there's books like, Your Body Keeps the Score and stuff like that. But I genuinely just thought, wow, all of that pent up emotion and worry and negativity that I had to probably acknowledge that I was masking to a degree with my positive mindset hypnotherapist hat on. I was like, wow, that is literally, that has been getting stored up in me, and I've just found a way to let it out. And God, I feel really good about that. And I imagine that's kind of what you're talking about in some of these practices that you're doing, to actually just release some of that stuff out of the body and to feel better about things.
Yeah, it's extremely powerful for that. I mean, I always knew Qigong was like powerful, and I did it for a number of years. But when COVID hit, I had this long period of time where I had like a school of people who saw me weekly and like religiously online for quite a long period of time. And the emails, the messages, the letters I was getting back from these people after a few months of Qigong was like, you've transformed my body, you've transformed my feelings, you've transformed all these things. And even so much, one guy had a back surgery 3 times, never got rid of his chronic pain. And within about 3 months of Qigong, his back pain had gone completely because his back pain was connected to an emotion somewhere. And he was fighting and he was always going back to that. And by breathing and moving and gently stretching and going through his body and balancing all his posture and everything, it was just dissipating. And that was the same story for hundreds of people. Honestly, I can't believe how overwhelming it was for me to experience that. And that's what really cemented in my mind that I needed to keep doing Qigong and keep sharing it, because it can be life-changing by just doing 15, 20 minutes of movement, once or twice a day. If you can fit it in twice, great, but once a day, and you can really, really feel the benefits.
Yeah, it's great. And I love the approach. One of the things that's coming out more and more in the more recent podcasts we're doing is the idea of approaching things in a proactive way, in the way that you're talking about, that Eastern view of medicine. Let's not wait for a problem. Let's just keep ourselves in good shape so we don't encounter the problem. And that's coming out more and more in the conversations we're having around mental health. That actually, listen, let's not wait until we're at rock bottom before we seek out some sort of support. Let's be proactive. Let's recognize, actually, I'm feeling a bit stressed, whether that's a knowledge of it through sleeping problems or the feeling, or, symptoms like IBS, which makes a lot of sense in terms of what you're saying about your organs holding this stuff. And also highlighting again what we know, I think, and is fairly conclusive about being in the moment, and the benefits of that for your mental health. And it sounds like everything you've described is just so good, not only keeping people in the moment, but that proactive approach to not only mental but physical health.
Yeah, I think, one thing you just said there that was like, people almost leave it too late. They wait till the symptoms build up and they think, oh, well, that'll just go away. And then another thing comes on top of it, and then another thing. And then it becomes overwhelming. And then it's like, oh, I can't deal with this. And then I've got no energy. And then you get into that downward spiral. And something from that Qigong will teach you is just that awareness of your body. Ooh, what's going on today? How can I get rid of that before it becomes more of a problem? Or am I exacerbating it by this pattern of how I'm sitting? Or is it stress that's causing that and really causing pain? Have I noticed that when I'm having an argument with my partner, I start to feel discomfort somewhere? These little subtleties our bodies are always telling us. We just weren't taught to listen to that from a young age, So it's alien to a lot of people. And then, well, what do we do? Well, we tend to numb it. So we take stimulants, painkillers, or we take alcohol, lots of caffeine, all these things that they stop us from feeling what we're supposed to feel. And, everyone will testify that I never get sick. I touch wood here. I don't remember the last time I had a cold or a flu or took a day off sick. Working for yourself, you don't tend to take too many sick days anyway. But I genuinely don't get ill. When all my friends are getting ill, when they've got the sniffles, even my wife, when she's ill, I'll be in the same bed as her, and I just don't get it, because I do so much preventative work, because I'm doing Qigong so much. I do my breathing. I'm always out in nature. I'm not just conscious about what I eat, like I said earlier, but because I also really enjoy that, and I know that food gives me such nourishment and energy from what I'm doing.
Yeah,
that makes perfect sense, I think.
Yeah, that's it. I often talk to people. Sorry, Nibbo, this is last thing I'm going to say. Just in terms of that whole the replacements. I often have these conversations where, particularly around where people come to see me around alcohol or drugs, and those sorts of things, or even just like smoking and vaping, because people are consuming all sorts of chemicals, and I'm like you're putting all this stuff into your body, and your body actually, if you leave your body alone, it's got all the chemicals you need to make you feel a lot better and a lot happier. But we interfere, whether it's smoking or vaping or alcohol or highly processed foods or whatever it is, so I really like that idea of actually, no, just let's go back to basics on it. Let's start listening to our body, and let's enable our bodies to solve the issues for itself before we just, take something for it.
Good point, Brad. Arron, I think you're really doing a job here, because I can't remember with any other guest having a larger appetite for the self-care practices that they're talking about in the middle of the show than the takeaway they spoke about at the start of the show. But now, like, I'm not craving that curry anymore. I'm craving a cold water swim and some breathing exercises far more than I am craving the curry. So maybe that goes to explain why curries and takeaways aren't regular occurrences in your life. Maybe you're already full up with the self-care practices that you engage in.
Well, unfortunately, that's the end of part 1, guys. So we're going to leave you to take a little break to go and have one of those cold water dips yourself, or go and do some of those breathing exercises. And we'll see you next time for part 2.